What kind of person screams about a melted icy like it's a crime against humanity? Karen Wheeler, that's who. In the heart of a sweltering summer afternoon, the fluorescent lights of Sonny's diner buzzed over a line of sweaty customers. The air conditioner was on its last legs, wheezing like an old man after a marathon. At the counter, Karen, a woman whose presence seemed to suck the air out of the room, was already making herself known. Her voice, sharp and grating, sliced through the hum of conversation. This I see is a disgrace. It's practically water. Do you people even know how to run a machine? She slammed a half-empty plastic cup on the counter, blue slush sloshing over the edge. The cashier, a 19-year-old named Mia, barely out of high school, froze. Her hands trembled as she tried to process the outburst. Karen's face, flushed with indignation, loomed closer. Her eyes narrowed like a predator sizing up prey. Mia stammered, "Ma'am, I'm so sorry. The machine's been acting up today. Let me get you a new one." But Karen wasn't here for apologies. She was here for war. Mia's heart pounded as she fumbled with the IC machine, its ancient gears groaning under the weight of Karen's expectations. The diner wasn't fancy, just a small, family-owned spot in a strip mall, serving burgers, fries, and frozen drinks to locals who didn't expect perfection. But Karen? She expected a Michelin star experience for her $2.99 IC. The line behind her grew restless, customers shifting their weight, some whispering, others checking their phones to avoid the spectacle. Mia's manager, Tom, a lanky man in his 40s with tired eyes, stepped in. "Ma'am, we'll replace it free of charge. What flavor would you like?" Karen scoffed, folding her arms. "Do I look like I trust you to get it right? I want a refund and a proper IC. Cherry. Not this diluted garbage." Her voice dripped with contempt, as if Mia and Tom were personally conspiring to ruin her day. Mia's hands shook as she poured a fresh cherry IC. The machine, sputtering like it, too, was intimidated by Karen's wrath. She slid the cup across the counter, praying it would end the ordeal. Karen inspected it like a jeweler examining a flawed diamond, then took a sip, her face twisted. "This is worse. Are you trying to scam me? I'm not an idiot." The accusation stung Mia, who'd been working double shifts to save for college. She wanted to snap back, to tell Karen to take her complaints elsewhere, but she bit her tongue. Tom, sensing the tension, stepped closer. "Ma'am, we're doing our best. The machine's old, but we'll make this right." Karen's eyes gleamed with something dangerous, a mix of entitlement and glee. She wasn't just upset about the IC. This was her stage and she was the star. The truth was, Karen had a reputation. Sonny's diner wasn't her first battlefield. She terrorized the local coffee shop, the grocery store, even the dry cleaner down the street. Every business in town knew her name, her face, her voice. She thrived on complaints, wielding them like a weapon to get freebies, discounts, or just the thrill of making someone squirm. Mia had heard the stories from coworkers, but facing Karen in person was different. It was like staring down a storm. Tom, ever the peacemaker, offered Karen a refund and another IC, but she wasn't satisfied. "I'm calling corporate," she snapped, pulling out her phone. "This place is a joke. You'll be hearing from my lawyer." Mia's stomach dropped. A lawyer? Over an IC? The absurdity of it would have been funny if it wasn't so humiliating. As Karen dialed, the diner's atmosphere shifted. Customers who'd been annoyed at the delay now looked at Mia with pity. A woman in a sundress muttered, "She's always like this." A trucker at the counter shook his head, sipping his coffee. Mia felt the weight of their eyes, but worse was the weight of Karen's words. They weren't just complaints, they were personal. "Incompetent kids," Karen muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. "No wonder this place is falling apart." Mia's cheeks burned. She wanted to disappear, to crawl under the counter and never come out. But then something shifted. Tom, usually calm, straightened up. His voice was low but firm. "Ma'am, that's enough. You've got your refund. You've got a new IC. If you're not happy, you're welcome to leave." The diner went quiet. Karen blinked, caught off guard. For a moment it seemed like she might back down. But Karen Wheeler didn't back down. She leaned in, her voice a venomous hiss. "You think you can talk to me like that? I'm a paying customer. I'll have your job." Tom didn't flinch. "You're harassing my staff. I'm asking you to leave." The standoff was electric, the air thick with tension. Mia's heart raced, but a spark of hope flickered. Someone was standing up to Karen. The customers watched, some with wide eyes, others with subtle nods of approval. Karen's face reddened, her lips parting to unleash another tirade. But before she could, a new voice cut through. "Karen, enough." It was Mrs. Larson, a regular. A sweet elderly woman who always tipped generously and never complained. She stood from her booth, her frail frame trembling with indignation. "You're making a fool of yourself. Leave these kids alone." The diner held its breath. Karen's eyes darted to Mrs. Larson, then back to Tom. For the first time, she looked uncertain. Mrs. Larson's words were the twist no one saw coming. A woman who'd never raised her voice in the diner was now staring down the town's most infamous complainer. Karen's bravado faltered, but she wasn't ready to surrender. "Mind your own business, old lady," she snapped, but her voice lacked its earlier venom. Mrs. Larson didn't back down. "This is my business. This is everyone's business when you act like this." The crowd murmured in agreement. Mia felt a surge of gratitude, her fear giving way to something stronger. She wasn't alone. Tom wasn't alone. Karen, for all her bluster, was just one person, and the diner was full of people tired of her antics. The confrontation was far from over, but the tide was turning. Karen's eyes burned with fury, but the weight of Mrs. Larson's words hung in the air like a challenge. The diner, once a battleground for her complaints, was now a courtroom, and the jury was the crowd of customers watching her every move. She clutched her phone, still poised to call corporate, but her fingers hesitated. The room was against her, and she could feel it. Mia, still behind the counter, wiped her sweaty palms on her apron, her heart pounding but her resolve growing. Tom stood firm, his arms crossed, his face a mask of quiet determination. Karen wasn't used to this. She was used to cowering employees, free drinks, and apologies. But Sonny's diner wasn't playing her game today. "You're all pathetic," Karen spat, her voice loud but wavering. She pointed at Mia. "You think you're special because you pour drinks? You're nothing." The words stung, but Mia didn't flinch. Something inside her had shifted. She'd spent months at this job, dealing with rude customers, long hours, and a paycheck that barely covered her textbooks. She wasn't nothing. She was working for a future, something Karen couldn't understand. "I'm doing my job," Mia said, her voice steady for the first time. "If you don't like it, you can leave." The words felt like a release, like shedding a weight she didn't know she was carrying. The crowd murmured, some nodding in approval. Karen's face twisted, her smugness giving way to something uglier desperation. Tom stepped forward, his voice calm but unyielding. "Ma'am, I've asked you to leave. If you don't, I'll call the police." The threat was real and Karen knew it. She'd pushed too far before at other businesses and had been escorted out. But admitting defeat wasn't in her nature. She slammed her phone on the counter, the crack echoing in the quiet diner. "You're threatening me? I'll sue this place into the ground." Her voice was shrill now, almost frantic. The customers weren't intimidated anymore. The trucker at the counter snorted. "Good luck with that, lady." Mrs. Larson, still standing, added, "You're not the victim here, Karen. You never are." The words hit like a slap, and Karen's bravado cracked further. Then came the twist that turned the tide completely. The back door of the diner swung open, and in walked Officer Daniels, a local cop who often stopped by for coffee on his break. He wasn't in uniform, but his presence was unmistakable, tall, broad-shouldered, with a no-nonsense air. He'd heard the commotion from the parking lot and decided to check in. "Everything okay here, Tom?" he asked, his voice casual but his eyes fixed on Karen. The diner went silent. Karen's face paled, her phone slipping from her hand onto the counter. She wasn't expecting this. No one was. Mia's heart leaped. She didn't know if Tom had called him or if this was just luck, but it felt like divine intervention. Karen tried to pivot, her voice suddenly saccharine. "Officer, thank goodness you're here. These people are harassing me over a simple complaint." She gestured at Mia and Tom, playing the victim with practiced ease. But Daniels wasn't buying it. He'd dealt with Karen before. Her name was practically a legend at the precinct for frivolous complaints. "Ma'am, I heard you from outside," he said, his tone dry. "Sounds like you're the one causing a scene. Why don't we step outside and talk?" Karen's mouth opened, then closed. For the first time, she looked truly cornered. The crowd watched, some hiding smirks, others openly relieved. Tom seized the moment. "Karen, you've been asked to leave multiple times. Officer Daniels can escort you out if you'd prefer." The ultimatum was clear. Karen's eyes darted around the room, searching for an ally, but found none. Even the customers who'd stayed silent were now glaring at her. She grabbed her phone and her purse, muttering under her breath. "This isn't over," she hissed, but her voice lacked conviction. She stormed toward the door, nearly knocking over a chair in her haste. Daniels followed, keeping a polite but firm distance. The diner erupted in a quiet buzz as the door swung shut behind her. Mia let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. But the victory was short-lived. The next day, Karen was back. This time, she wasn't alone. She'd brought a friend, another woman with the same entitled air, and a stack of printed emails she claimed were from corporate. The IC machine had been replaced overnight. Tom had pulled strings with the owner to get a cheaper model, hoping it would shut Karen up. Didn't. "This is still garbage," she declared, holding up a new cup of cherry IC. "You think you can fool me with this knockoff machine?" Mia's heart sank. The new machine was supposed to fix everything, but Karen was relentless. The confrontation was escalating again, and this time it felt personal. Karen's return was like a storm cloud rolling back over Sunny's diner. The new IC machine, a budget model, rushed into service, hummed quietly behind the counter, but it wasn't enough to appease her. She stood there, flanked by her friend, a woman named Linda, whose pinched expression mirrored Karen swaving her stack of emails like a weapon. "Corporate agrees with me," Karen declared, her voice loud enough to turn heads. "This place is a scam, and I'm not leaving until you fix it." Mia, wiping down the counter, felt a familiar knot in her stomach. She'd hoped yesterday's standoff would be the end of it, but Karen was like a dog with a bone. Tom, already exhausted from a morning of supplier issues, stepped forward, his patience razor-thin. "Ma'am, we replaced the machine. You got a fresh IC. What's the problem now?" Karen smirked, sensing weakness. "The problem is you're cutting corners. This IC tastes like cheap syrup. I know quality, and this isn't it." Linda nodded vigorously, chiming in. "She's right. You're ripping people off." The customers in line exchanged glances, some annoyed, others curious. Mia wanted to scream. The new machine was working. Finessed tested it herself. Karen was just fishing for another fight, another freebie, another chance to feel powerful. But this time, Mia wasn't alone. The memory of Mrs. Larson's stand and Officer Daniels' intervention gave her courage. She wasn't going to let Karen win again. Tom, however, was one step ahead. He'd spent the morning digging into Karen's history. After her scene yesterday, he'd called other local businesses, piecing together a pattern. Karen had been banned from 2 coffee shops and a nail salon for similar stunts, demanding refunds, threatening lawsuits, and harassing staff. More importantly, he'd learned she'd been issued a trespass warning at a nearby diner for refusing to leave. Tom had a plan, and it was about to unfold. "Ma'am," he said, his voice calm but edged with steel, "you're trespassing. You were asked to leave yesterday, and you're back causing trouble. I'm calling the police." Karen laughed, a harsh, barking sound. "Go ahead. They won't do anything." But Tom wasn't bluffing. He pulled out his phone and dialed, keeping his eyes on Karen. The diner grew quiet again, the tension palpable. Linda shifted uncomfortably, clearly less committed to the fight. Karen, however, doubled down. "You're finished," she hissed, pointing at Tom. I'll have this place shut down. Mia's hands clenched into fists. She wanted to believe Tom's plan would work, but Karen's confidence was unnerving. What if she really could cause trouble? What if corporate sided with her? The thought made Mia's stomach churn, but she held her ground, pouring another IC to keep busy. Minutes later, Officer Daniels walked in, this time in uniform. His presence was like a thunderclap. Karen's smirk faltered, and Linda took a step back. Ms. Wheeler, Daniels said, his tone professional but firm. You're trespassing on private property. You were warned yesterday. If you don't leave now, I'll have to arrest you. The word arrest hit Karen like a slap. Her face flushed, and she stammered, "This is outrageous. I'm a customer." Daniels didn't budge. "You've been asked to leave multiple times. You're not welcome here. Let's go." The diner was silent, every eye on Karen. Linda mumbled something about waiting outside and scurried out the door, abandoning her friend. Karen's empire of complaints crumbled in that moment. She grabbed her emails and purse, her hands shaking, and stormed out, muttering threats under her breath. Daniels followed to ensure she left the property. The diner erupted in applause, not loud, but heartfelt. Mia felt a weight lift off her shoulders. Tom turned to her, a rare smile breaking through his tired expression. "You okay?" he asked. Mia nodded, her eyes stinging with relief. "Yeah, thanks for having my back." The customers, sensing the drama was over, returned to their meals, but the atmosphere was lighter, almost celebratory. In the days that followed, Sonny's Diner became a local legend. Word spread about the time Karen Wheeler was finally put in her place. The new IC machine, though cheap, worked just fine, and business picked up as curious locals stopped by to see the place that stood up to the town's most notorious complainer. Mia found herself smiling more at work, her confidence growing. She even started a small jar behind the counter labeled Karen Fund, where customers dropped spare change to help replace the old air conditioner. Mrs. Larson became a hero in her own right, her quiet courage inspiring others to speak up when they saw injustice. Karen never returned, though rumors swirled that she'd moved her complaints to a neighboring town. Mia didn't care. She'd faced the storm and come out stronger. The diner wasn't just a job, Anna Maria, it was a place where people stood together, where a $2.99 IC wasn't just a drink, but a symbol of resilience. Every time Mia poured a cherry IC, she remembered that day, the day they all said, "Enough," and she knew, no matter what came next, she could handle it. Because sometimes, standing up to a bully, even one with a lawyer and a stack of emails, was the sweetest victory of all.